And we should now be live. Good evening, everybody. I'm just going to double check OBS. Yep, all looks good there. How are we all doing? Aiden, I haven't seen you around for a while. How have you been? Hello, Goofy Goof. Chaos Rex, I'm doing okay. How are you? Good. So, today's stream is all about, hello Frogstritch, is all about designing enclosures. And we're going to look at two different aspects of designing enclosures today. We're going to look at creating biomes within biomes. And we're going to look at creating focal point decorations for your enclosures. And we're going to say your little T-Rexes, aka chickens. It's very good. We're going to start by looking at how to create different biomes within the tropical biome to start with. Now, as a general rule, I think the tropical biome has the best choices of texture brush. They're all very distinctly different from one another, and they can perform different roles for making different biomes within your enclosure. So in each of these squares, we're going to do basically a very quick different biome. So the first thing we're going to do is just a very basic, your basic tropical biome. So we're going to have it based around this central river. We're going to use the mud texture underneath the waterline, just so that we can make the water really distinctive. I don't think people do this enough with their water. They don't ever put something else texture-wise underneath the water, so the water never really stands out. And then as per, we're just going to use the tropical brush to create the trees on either side. There you go. I actually don't really like the tropical tree brush. I think the tropical tree brush is a bit too heavy on the old palm trees. And then what you can also do if you want it to be a little more tropical is to just put down some sand either side of your water. Like so. When it comes to vegetation, I would stick to things like leafy climbers, because you have the advantage of the rocks, not the rocks, the logs.
You could move your chainsaw
For that tropical feel. And if you're going to place down rocks, just to enliven the river a bit, probably for tropical, I would stick to the temperate rocks. You know, you have the light grey, and they have the moss color to them. So what I'm going to do here is just place. Gonna just create like a mock section. So at one point there would have been like an archway over. You can make it even more distinctive. Let's get rid of that particular rock, and we'll put in top access. Put in one that's standing up. So it looks like at one point there was like a rock over the edge. And I'm just going to move these rocks around a bit so we just have more of that sort of style. There you go. You can use some light sand brush strokes. Just to make it look like there's a little bit of like water current going around those, some rapids. And then I would manually place down any possible decorations you want. So we'll place down like a fallen tree that's got caught up here. Let's place it there. And then we will place down some of these aloe veras as just some water vegetation. Obviously my aim is to do this as quickly as possible to give you guys the most possibilities. If you want to spend lots more time doing stuff like this, you can, obviously. The aim is to just give you some ideas here. A couple of palms just for... Yep, and stick one of those in there. So there you go, a very simple tropical environment biome there. I'm just going to catch up with chat. Please build a wasteland type thing. We can have a go with that sort of enclosure when we do the building focal points in your enclosures. You know how to build an Australian outback using the dirt texture? I can give it a go. And I mean, that's basically savannah, really, in my opinion. I always do dirt, rock, sand for the water and decorative brush foliage for the water plants. Yep, water plants, they're basically, so... I've said this many times, but the fibrous ground cover brush, they are all basically water plants. These are all species of water plants, including like the horsetails. There they are. So I would use those all the time for water foliage. Am I the only one who refuses to put the Permian creatures in anything other than tropical jungles? I have a Dimetrodon enclosure in a snow exhibit on one of my other parks. Rock arches we definitely do need. A lily pad's decorative brush when exactly. Right, let's move on to creating a desert. Now a desert is really easy to do in the tropical biomes because we have this wonderful sand. This is a really beautiful sand. Obviously if you're going to put water down, I would tend to stick to putting water down in like one corner. Don't want to put too much water. In terms of texture underneath the water, something like the I call it's called rock, but it's not really rock. It's this, I kind of see it as like cracked dry earth. Yeah, just put a light sprinkling down. Not too dark. It just gives you a nice pattern under there. Now for deserts, I always like to give a couple of dunes. So we're going to turn the slope and intensity down, and we're going to turn the radius down. And we're just going to lightly brush over. Something like that. If anything looks too severe, just use a smoothing tool just to smooth it out a bit. So you have some nice dunes there. And in the middle, you can also try to just drop the land down a bit, just to make the dunes look even more distinct. Hello, Firaz, or Fax. I'll just call you Fax, it'll be the easiest thing to do. How are you doing today? Anakin's Nightmare, definitely. In terms of rocks, obviously stick to the desert rocks. Desert rocks or black rocks. Black is also, I think, a nice color of rock for deserts. Rocks that have been sort of baked dry. I would tend to try and stick to sort of quite small rocks though. Don't go for anything too huge. Obviously for a big dune, something like this, you could stick like a big one in there. Put a few smaller ones around it. And we'll put a couple of actual proper desert rocks in here. Put one down there. Maybe put a couple. Let's see, where else we got? Maybe a couple. Maybe just like one big-ish one. They're almost too big. Right, and then in terms of planting, so for a desert, I would suggest that you plant as many of the plants as possible yourself, and try to not put in like typical lots of palm trees, because deserts you don't get lots of palm trees. You want to stick to, you know, small, bushy-looking plants. So the tropical flowers and tropical bush work quite well for this. I'd also suggest these really small bushes that come in the desert section. They work quite well, along with the big sort of spiky aloe vera cactus thing. Obviously, normal cactus work quite well. These, I think, aren't these supposed to be this large tree 3? I think that's supposed to be yucca, aren't they, or something similar? You put one of those in as well, just a singular sort of yucca. Oh, they're Joshua trees. Joshua trees. Well, a single one of those, you know, not too many. Maybe another one over here, actually. With the cacti. I think that's fairly decent. Obviously, if you're going to have... Okay, Aiden, see you later. Obviously, if you're going to have herbivores in here, you're going to have to put in some plants for them to eat. I try and stick to what's in the cycad grove. Just turn the intensity way down so you don't get too many trees. And just put in some... You know, just put it in between the dunes, because it is something that people don't realize. You do actually get like forests and stuff that occur between dunes in normal deserts. So, and I quite like the cycad groves, big ferns, the fibrous ground cover also for the sort of light grasses and things works quite well. Obviously, anywhere where you have water, you can be quite prolific with it. Like that. And it's around the water sources where I would suggest putting down sort of your bigger trees like your palm trees. I'll put a couple of those in. That. Obviously, if you're going to have a carnivore in here, you don't need to worry about what they're eating, so you can be a bit lighter on the vegetation. Placeable ferns would be nice, Dog Monkey. I agree. I really want this one. This large, sort of prominent one with the big fruit or whatever it is in the middle. I really want that as a placeable fern. But that's how I would do a sort of a desert. Similar to a desert, savannah. I find this quite difficult to do, but I suggest you start off by using this the cracked sort of mud texture first. And then what we're going to do is grab the sand, we're going to turn the intensity down and the radius down. And we're just going to basically paint over the top. until the brown is a little lighter. So that gives us this really nice rough texture. And then we're going to grab the grassland shrubs or sort of fibrous ground cover, whatever you prefer. We're going to again turn the intensity way down. And just go over it until basically we want to remove as much of the brown, darker brown as possible, but not make it too green. Because if it's too green, it won't look savannah enough. I think that's pretty much okay. I mean, you can also do it as Barga suggests. Use the standard mud. Let's just split this in half so we can compare. So no, there's done that a bit too much on the sand there. There's, you know, both work, I think, quite well. In terms of trees for this particular enclosure, let's just create like a mock little watering hole. Ooh, that's way too big. Rock colors, probably I would go with the desert rocks. And then in terms of trees for this, these weird sort of spindly trees I think work quite well for a savannah enclosure. I honestly think this one is a bit too bushy for a savannah. I mean, the Himalayan, something like the large trees from the Mediterranean, I think work better.
Use the recoil to propel you farther.
And then you could probably also use smaller ones like that. Smaller bushes to bed these in. Something a bit like that. Again, I'm doing this quite quickly and quite roughly, just to demonstrate. I think making a savannah works best on the Temperate map. Probably. I'm going to use the tropical biome, I'm going to use the Taiga biome, and I'm going to use the Biosyn biome. They're the three I've picked for this particular experiment. How do you implement a structure into an exhibit and make it part of the enclosure? What sort of structure do you mean, Goofy? So this is going to be a mangrove, or at least attempt to be. So what I'm going to do is create like a mock little delta here. It is a bit tricky because the water brush is so awful in this game.
That is a misfire.
That should do. Then we're going to place down all sand. So mangrove is basically kind of a mix between like a beach and a swamp, in my view. So we're going to use the mud texture where the water is. We're going to try and leave a couple of sort of areas where it might not be as deep, so we can, they sort of here and here. Going to leave those as they are. Just like that. In terms of rocks for mangrove, I would stick to the black rocks. And again, use smaller ones around less deep areas to create sort of mock little bridges. Place down a few bigger ones here and there. Gonna avoid placing down anything too large, unless it's like in a corner. Yep. Plants for mangroves. Anything sort of, we don't have mangrove trees, which is a bit of a disappointment. But I think the tropical large tree one, or again the Mediterranean large trees, work quite well. And then you can also use these, I think they're supposed to be olive trees or Himalayan pines or something. You can also use those as smaller varieties. And I'd also suggest using some of the temperate trees as well. Just for something green and bushy. Let's grab some more of those.
Yes, actually.
Let's put a big bushy one in. We're going to use the fibrous ground, or actually we'll probably use the leafy climbers. I like the fact that there's lots of logs in the leafy climbers, and that the vegetation is quite thick.
Okay.
And then I'd also suggest using maybe the ginkgos, because the ginkgos will hopefully put trees in where we haven't put any. Although this time round it is refusing. Oh, come on ginkgo. Well, the ginkgo brush fails me. Oh, you'll put one in there.
An advantage.
And in there. Really, we could do with a tree right there. Yeah, actually, the cycad groves as well kind of helps. Smaller varieties of tree.
That is advantage.
It's not perfect. I think I could probably do better than that. But again, sort of a mangrove-y sort of forest environment. Barga, when will Frontier add deep water? Never. Not for Jurassic World Evolution 2, anyway. It's just not possible, and there are multiple reasons as to why. Could we do a temperate rainforest? Well, basically, temperate rainforest is this. It's just basically the rainforest, the standard tropical tropical foliage brush. Right, let's go for something that's kind of rocky. So let's go for something like this. Let's give us some really prominent ground. Going to smooth the terrain out there. See if I can tidy this up a bit.
I will hit you. Yes, I will.
So one thing I would suggest as a general tip for building enclosures, try to avoid building enclosures that are totally flat. Always try and go for some terrain height difference inside them. There we go. Actually going to put like another little
I like to think.
lump in the back.
I do like to think that Nanny Margaret, the only reason we keep summoning her, she's the only sea hag not in a common. So she's the only applicable target.
Let's do a little bit more. Let's like join it up down here. Now, obviously, you want to stop dinosaurs from crawling, from going up the really steep bits. So I would use invisible fencing. To ensure that the dinosaurs basically don't climb up over your little mountain range. You can obviously hide this with terrain decoration. And then we're going to use the simple rock brush. Let's put in that rock. I prefer to sort of start with the darkest color I'm going to use in any area of my terrain and then apply the lighter ones on the top. So paint it all in the basic rock color, and then we're going to use the dirt, and we're going to turn the intensity down and just layer in some dirt. It's not really dirt, it's just more of a mossy sort of coloration. And we're going to use some of that cracked, rocky sort of texture as well. And some mud around the bottom. Some mud around the bottom there. We're going to have our water down here. Some rocks, obviously, to make it look more rocky. I would use probably Taiga rocks for this sort of thing because they're quite distinctive. And you can obviously go for some quite large ones when you're doing something like this. Obviously, it's going to be a lot easier to do something like this when you're using mods. But I think if you're, you know, if you take your time and you're quite patient, you can get something that looks reasonably good. We'll make this temperate in style, so we'll use some of these trees. We'll stick to quite small ones. And we'll basically use these trees to cover up those rough edges, essentially. Especially... Where's the bush? Where's the bush? The Taiga bush. If you are going to do a temperate area, don't be adverse to putting in some Taiga trees. I mean, I live in the UK and we do get lots of these tall pine-like trees and stuff around. And we'll do the same down here. Mix up the... Maybe put in a couple of different colours. And bushes as well. Put a couple of these in here. Something like that. And then you can obviously decorate the rest of this however you like. One thing again I would say, where you have sort of any slopes where dinosaurs are going to be walking a lot, I would always try and just scuff the ground a bit. Lots of different ways you can do this. You can just use the so the dirt brush. The cracked earth brush works quite well as well. Or there's the sand brush on quite light, or even just the rock brush as well. Just scuff the terrain, make it look like it's a passageway. The dinosaurs go up and down quite a bit. Sorry, let me just catch up with chat. Yeah, I do really think we need pterosaur animations. Let's switch from. I'm going to switch from the tropical biome. Because obviously I don't want to spend all my time here, and I'm already halfway through the stream. So we're going to switch to the Taiga biome. Hey Fletcher, when can we expect anything of a prehistoric kingdom? In terms of playing it for the channel, the problem with prehistoric kingdoms is it takes so long to achieve anything, and it's not really a game I think that is very good for a stream. So obviously with the Taiga maps you get a very restricted variety, but I think you can still make some very interesting biomes. So you can still make a desert. Start by placing down the sand. And then again, low intensity snow. That's not low intensity enough.
You're grappled though, aren't you?
Just to
does it possibly even help here?
Just makes the sort of brown of the snow a bit lighter. It's not too light that it could turn into snow. But if you want a sort of a desert-like environment for a Taiga enclosure, you could do something like that. I mean, I also think it works quite well if you want to do sort of a salt flat enclosure, because it has that strange sort of texture to it. I would just let's make another one over here. So if you wanted to make it like a salt flat sort of affair, I would probably just make it more intense in terms of snow. That's way too intense. Let's try putting some... Yeah, no. Definitely only works with putting the snow over the sand. Like, if you were going to make it a salt flat, you want it a lot brighter than what you would do for, say... So that's what I would do for like a semi-desert sort of thing. This is how light I would have it for like a salt flat sort of enclosure. They just take white enough that it looks like salt, but not so white that it looks like snow, essentially. A coastline. So an Arctic coastline. So if you want to create like an artificial coast, quite difficult to do in an area this small, but let's see. So the first thing I would suggest you do is you start with making sure you have some terrain that's higher than the rest of your enclosure. Want it quite a bit higher. because basically what we want to do is turn this into basically a beach. We'll make the rest water. And then we want to smooth this down a lot.
Sure. I need to check if that's one of the things I get advantage on.
Probably. The way the new water brush works, like it doesn't take up any, doesn't remove terrain for you, can be a bit of an annoyance, but there we go. And then that way you have a sort of a light slope down towards the water. Obviously, you want to use sand. So I put sand down all over. And then I would have, like, make sure there's plenty under the waterline too, but not the whole thing. Have it fade into something like a rock texture after a little bit. Or that sort of chunkier, rocky, you know, something that's quite distinct from the sand. We'll have like a patch of trees in one corner. And then we are going to want to put down... So this patchwork snow, let me come back over here. This patchwork snow, this is the sort of snow that you should put down underneath your foliage. So if you have a patch of forest, put down this snow texture. So it looks like some snow has been intercepted by the surrounding trees and can't get down to the surface, as opposed to all white, which just looks really unrealistic to me. I think that looks far better. And it shows up like the little grasses and stuff that are growing in there. And Dane is playing Dungeons and Dragons, so he might be having a bad time. Fletcher, recently I've started to try to start modding, and I wanted to ask you what you think I should add to the game. Adding anything in terms of modding, if it, I mean, I assume you mean you're making mods, and I would say that's one of the hardest things that you can possibly start with. Bless you. And then we're going to... This is supposed to be an Arctic coastline, isn't it? So we want to put down snow... But we want it... We don't want any in the water. No, snow won't form underwater. So we want a really clear and distinct line.
No,
something like that if you wanted like an Arctic sort of coast. So there's your water, there's your beach, and stick to trees up there. What colour rocks would I go with for this? Difficult, actually. I'd probably go for like something. Yeah, maybe like the desert style rocks. Maybe. Depends what sort of rock color you like, really. I think any rock color can work with a sort of a coastline. But that's how I would do like a coastline exhibit. Raise the terrain, slope it down towards water, and then decorate it how you wish. Grey or dark rocks. So yeah, you'll probably want to look at let's go back to our rocks. Probably something like the tropical rocks or the Taiga rocks then, in that case. Yeah, those are definitely a better color. And then obviously just, you can decorate it how you wish. You stick in some
at all.
small trees, ferns, bushes.
All in favor say aye. Aye.
Yeah, something like that. Quite like that, actually. What do you think the next expansion will be? Honestly, I don't really know. I'm not going to tell you what enclosure I'm building here, by the way. I'm going to see if you can guess. The next sort of... See, my problem is that all the expansions so far have been quite film-based. Like, there's nothing... There's nothing about them which is kind of their own work. It basically was like, oh, we've done Dominion. Here's the Jurassic World stuff. Here's the Fallen Kingdom stuff. Here's the Camp Cretaceous stuff, and it's like there's nothing in there that's like truly unique to Frontier. So I would like to see them try and make something that's unique to them. That's their own work. That's not based on any film or anything like that, but that might be too difficult. Well, no, it's not too difficult. I mean, they did it with Jurassic World Evolution 1. For all the fact that, you know, the expansions for Jurassic World Evolution 1, yeah, they were based on what happened in the movies, but I would say that they used them as a... you know, a basic idea, and then after that they sort of altered elements about them. Like the Claire Sanctuary DLC, yeah, it was clearly based on Fallen Kingdom, but there were lots of elements of that whole DLC that had nothing to do with Fallen Kingdom at all, and that's kind of what I wanted them to do with any future DLC. You know, the next DLC needs to be a big expansion. If it's another dinosaur pack, that will be a big disappointment. Okay, something a bit like that. And then we're going to use good old ginkgos again. Put a couple of patches in.
Sorry, who? I say I get advantage, is all I said. Okay.
Maybe not the ginkgos actually for this. Let's manually place in the trees instead. Let's put in black rocks. And then let's manually put in some furs. Plenty of dead ones in. Something a bit like that. Yeah, so this is my attempt at creating something that's slightly volcanic, and you could, obviously you could, if you want to scale this up and create something a lot larger, it will obviously look better. The larger you do it, the better it'll look. But I'm just trying to give you an example of how it would look in this sort of setting. Doing the inside of the volcano, that's quite difficult to do in terms of color. Probably just use the light sand.
I think scorpions might be better because they'll probably just
Yep.
join the march towards us. So just
And then obviously in terms of decoration, make sure you've got lots of
I have 5 oil flasks. Those are going
dead logs and stuff around.
Explosives.
Something along those lines. If you, say, wanted to try to make it look active, what could you do? Let's try and, looking at people who are not playing with mods to start with, probably want to create a nice glow in the middle. Plenty of lights. Let's just actually let's actually turn it to nighttime, and then obviously change the color of those to something a bit more volcanic. You could also place down things like the columns, and if they were dark enough, deep enough, they would kind of work. That's of course if you're not using mods. If you are using mods, well, there's lots of things you could do. I would place down thermal vents. From the lagoon section. That way you get that rising sort of gas. Cover up some of those bits of coral with dark rock. Easier to do. Obviously there are tolerances here.
Never has there been a braver warrior.
Yeah, something a bit like that. And then you can use let's use actually those. Yeah. So use those lagoon light rocks. Hide them in amongst those vents. I think that looks quite good. And if you have some particular mods, like the new effects mod that's out, let's see. You could also
some clerics of the kid looks over a Beldor.
Manually place down
much does that do?
Manually place down patches of mist and fog to sort of replicate that volcanic feel. But obviously, it's highly dependent on how many mods you're using, what mods you've got, and if you're using mods at all. If you don't use mods, obviously you're kind of limited, placing down just the lights inside and changing the color. But you can still achieve something similar. I did see Montgomery Rex's massive volcano using Jurassic Park lights. It's very impressive. Apart from the fact when you realize there are literally thousands of pieces there. And have you noticed that none of his parks are ever... none of his parks ever have people in them? Like, his parks are shut, and I assume that's because of frame rate problems. So, yes, you can make something that looks really very excessive, but I always try to think about, well, it's only any good if I can actually enjoy the park I've built afterwards. So finding the easiest way to make something with using the fewest parts is how I'd prefer to go with this. What is your opinion on a terror bird coming into the game? I think I would prefer them to stick to the Mesozoic era and pre-Mesozoic era animals than start muddling around with post-Mesozoic era animals. I just think it's its thing. Like, as nice as the feathers look in this game, they're not perfect. The Pyroraptor still looks very strange at some angles, and I don't think I think a fully feathered sort of terror bird-esque animal, I just don't think it would look very good with their current sort of feather engine that they've got. In your opinion, name a few things that need to be added to Jurassic World Evolution 2. Placeable benches, definitely, as Jacob the Goose says. Placeable effects, like this mist, or water splashes, or placeable waterfalls. I think all of those are things that definitely need to come to the game. Placeable bridges and placeable tunnels, I think, would also be quite good. I think once this game stops development, I think that looks really good from a distance, I have to say. I think once placeable bridges let me start again. I think once the game stops development and modders can freely mod without their mods breaking every few seconds, I think we're going to see a big surge in interesting stuff coming to the game, because Kyodenic has already really pushed ahead with his... It's kind of like an engine, like his Kyodenic editing engine, where he's got all these things attached to this tool set that he uses, and I think that offers a huge range of possibilities for things that we can do with our parks. Let me just switch and load up the Biosyn area, and I won't make any here. I'll just quickly talk about what I think you can do with some of these, and then we'll get started on like making some focal points in the tropical biomes. So the Biosyn brushes, I think the rock texture is one of the best rock textures in the game. I really love this rock texture. Would work really well if you're making, for the bottom of your rivers. Would work really well if you want to make really rocky enclosures, especially the fact that you've got this other very different type of sort of slate-like rock. This stuff, this sort of big puffy moss sort of thing you get in sort of on the top of plateaus. You have a really nice dirt texture here, which would work quite well with any sort of forest you might want to put under it. The sand is obviously the same sand as you get in the Taiga, which is a disappointment. You can't really... I don't think you can really do much with the sand. Let's see what we can do with the sand. Like, I think even if you put a light grass texture over it... Yeah, I'm not even sure that really works so much. I mean, you could make that as a slightly savannah-y, but I think it's just too... I don't think the sand is the right color for it. What if you put down... If you start with... Whoops. Start with rock and then put down sand on top of the rock. Yeah, see, the rock is so dark that you need to put a lot of sand over the top. And that just ruins the effect. What if you did the other way around? That's quite nice. But again, it's not really a biome in itself. It's just less rocky than that is. So yeah, I think the Biosyn one, it works really well for very starkly made enclosures, but you're going to be sort of limited, I think, in terms of what biomes you could say you could replicate with this. Probably definitely stick to rocky enclosures. I don't think you can do anything like a desert in this, and I don't think you could really do a savanna in this very well. So rocky, tropical or temperate forest enclosures, definitely. But that's about it. It's a shame, because I do kind of like the Biosyn map. I think it's a really nice looking square map with all these peaks around. And I have to say that the Biosyn trees, I quite like the look, but this texture is just... I don't like the default sort of textures. I really miss shale. Like, where is shale? Like, shale was like one of the best brushes we had from the first game. I would really like shale to come back. If I'm being honest, this game has advanced more in modding in only a year than the first game in its whole lifetime. That's true, but I would say that was because the first game, it took years. It took years for the mod makers to get to the point where they could actually make mods for the Cobra engine. So they did all the difficult work with the first game. So, let's think about making focal points for your enclosure. We've got three ones here. So, something I like to do is to create a mini henge. And if you don't know what a henge is, you can look up Stonehenge. British people will know what Stonehenge is. It's like one of our most famous landmarks. So we're going to create like a little raised mound. Probably not too high enough. That's a bit better. Yeah, something like that. And then we're going to use primarily the Temperate Rock 5. Because this is the one that most looks like the sort of rocks you get around things like Stonehenge. And we're just going to place down. It takes some time because obviously each rock you're going to have to place manually. try to mix up how you're placing them. Place a few maybe laying down so it looks like they've fallen over. Something like that. Start with the big ones. And then use smaller rocks. Again, sticking to temperate. In between or around those bigger ones. So you end up with something a bit like that. Now, again, obviously, if you're using mods, you could take the same Temperate Rock 5, get it generally lined up, something along those lines, use Kyodenics mod to then, use Kyodenics mod to then lift it, twist it, roundabout, and do something like that to create the sort of cross beaming that you might get at something like Stonehenge. And then I would finish this off with something probably the flower, quite a flowery sort of thing. Stonehenge itself is surrounded by fields, wild meadows and stuff, so you get a lot of flowers growing. Something like that. And then if you want to lean into the sort of henge style affair, you could put something in the very middle, something like a flaming obelisk. Just for a little, you know, central point. Do you think we will see Repenomamus, an early Cretaceous mammal that was around the size of an opossum? No. Or rather, I don't see why they would. Again, it would be adding a different type of animal that we don't really have. And I think if it's something that Jurassic World Evolution 2 has proven with its the sort of stuff that is added so far, I think they have proven that this game really doesn't suit animals that are small. The smaller the animal, the harder the game. The harder they, you know, the game surrounding structure, the fencing, the viewing stuff. I think I spoke about this in my video I did a couple of weeks ago about smaller species. I think what we could do is we could do with grabbing the okay. It's there. Okay. You know, they're again using all the mods available to me. A nice little misty Stonehenge sort of affair. You could also, if you wanted to make this more sort of part of the enclosure, just move, you know, make sure that there's a way for animals to get up and down it. Put like a carnivore feeder there. And then your carnivores will climb into Stonehenge in order to go and eat.
Oh, no.
So yeah, I think that Stonehenge is one of my favourite sort of things to do as a focal point. Someone mentioned, what would you do for like a wasteland, or I suppose what we're also referring to here is like an enclosure with sort of like a destroyed park sort of feel to it. I think there is a couple of different ways around doing this, and it depends how much you're willing to put up with the alerts at the top. The simplest way of doing it is to make use of the mortar pieces, these sorts of things, and just create like...
You may not be.
Let's try and stick to sort of the middle of this enclosure. And we're just going to create like a mock.
I have literally had to change to Microsoft Edge to play D&D because it was lagging so much my Chromium PS4.
Sort of environment.
Really need to fix this now, like pro support. Please.
You could also use you know, the cages or open things. And again, if you're using mods, don't be afraid to
So that means that you didn't sharpen your initiative.
yeah. Come on, Identic. There you go. Something like that. Just have it down on its side. And let's grab just like a water tower. Sort of just place that in there.
Bell is not got it in the initiative order.
I put some pavement down just to make it again look like there was a genuine place here.
But do you know what the sad part about this is? I feel bad for Jessica because it's like it hits me and I rolled a 1.
Could try putting in some fencing too.
Yeah.
Again, this is exceedingly rough. There are much better ways you could do it. Just for that sort of eeriness, you could put down lighting. Again, some orange lighting around bits and bobs. Yeah, let's do this again. I mean, let me do the way I would do it. And the way I would do it is make use of that destroyed, the new destructible feature. I would pick a reasonable size building. Let's go with command center. It's a little big, but we'll use it for the enclosure. And then let's give it some nice damage. Design the rest of the surrounding outside. So let's...
Yeah, I thought it was apt.
Put in some fence there and...
It gives me a you're just a bunch of squares feeling.
Something's there. Kyodenic has a damaged one, doesn't he? You used to be able to apply it to the fences. Oh, you still can. There you go. Maybe just put a few gaps in the fencing.
But what about the circle? Yes, it goes in the square hole. And what about the rectangle?
Honestly, I prefer Kyodenics' damage applicator to Frontiers, because Kyodenics' you get the alarms, which just adds to that sort of ambience. But obviously, if you don't have mods, you can just stick to using Frontiers method. Obviously, the bigger the enclosure you have, the more you can do with it. I do agree that we need like a micro dome to house the small animals. I think that's the best thing that we could have to house small animals. Another type of focal point I quite like to have: castles. I quite like to give any castle a very steep sided sort of plinth, relatively square. Now, I would say the castles are so much easier to do if you're using Kyodenics mod, because you can just take stuff and move them into position. If you're not using mods, it will attempt to auto level. Like if I do one over here, like it will level the terrain a bit. Sometimes it will then let you get rid of that, sometimes it won't. So it might be an idea to sort of build your castle first and then build, like, lower the terrain around it, if you know what I mean.
But they do have flies flying around them.
So let's put in... a couple of... well, one tall wall. I don't want to use too many of those. These aren't actually walls, they're doors. If you look at them closely, you can see that there is actually a doorway. So we won't use too many of them. There we go.
Does he roll if I don't use it? Or does he just decide I'm a god like that? Yeah. Oh wow.
And put that one there. Something else I like to do, thanks to Kyodenics mod, sink these towers down into the ground. Put them at a bit of a jaunty angle. Yeah, gives it that proper ruin sort of style. And you can also, grab these sorts of sections,
Oh, this is a monk thing. This is a monk thing. This is a monk thing.
tilt them down, bury them in the terrain. You could also do something similar to that using the towers themselves. So let's put this one there. What we're going to do is we're going to grab this and we're going to twist it down quite far and have it sort of leaning off the edge of that tower there. Decorate the rest of the surrounding area. Rock.
You
place
make it
down
low.
some nice foliage in the middle. Make it look a bit more ruinous. You could put down some trees in here. So let's stick to the temperate trees, since we do have an awful lot of castles in this country. Let's grab a couple that are a slightly different color. Maybe there. No. I think that works quite well. Something else I like to do is to put the where are they? The big floodlights around these sorts of structures. I think it's something that people forget that they have quite often. You can really improve the look of your enclosures by using the floodlights. If I put this into nighttime, like, they do illuminate quite a large area. So if you want to not necessarily use lots of those rather normal lights, because these lights I've always thought are a bit wussy and they don't really have a lot of area around them. But these floodlights, they illuminate quite a big space, so you can put them down to brighten up your enclosures. And if you can hide them by using mods or by putting trees and stuff around them, even better. I think that looks really quite cool. Hello, Barger. Welcome back. For some reason, the program used for modding won't work for me. It is quite a complicated procedure getting it all installed. Let me switch the time of day back to day. This has taken less time than I thought. So does anybody have other things they find difficult to do about enclosures, or any sort of any questions or help that they would like? I'm a free and open book right now. We've had quite a busy week in terms of streaming, so that's why I'm going for something quite relaxed today. The goddamn shape. Okay, let's deal with it. Let's tackle shapes. So I think people still struggle quite a lot with this. So, say you want to do something like this. I would advise you do the path around the edge first. So we're going to make making squares is quite easy. Straight, 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 straight. You can see all I'm doing here is using the maximum path length width, because a path will snap to the smallest width or the longest width. It's the easiest way. It will also snap to angles. You know, there is that snapping there. Very easy. And then you can just put your fencing inside. No, I could not name all 50 states burger, and I wouldn't want to. I'm British. Say you want to do a circle instead. So to do any other shape, you want to create a skeleton. So start by putting down how many sections you want to do. Let's do one with minimum length. So let's do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we've gone for 8 minimum lengths. So you want to find the midpoint, which will be the 4th one. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And we're going to go out 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And there is your first step of framework. From here, you could join up the edges to make a square again. But say you want to do a circle. So you want to find the midpoint again and go up 1, 2, 3, and 4. Same down here. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then from here you could join up the ends to give yourself an octagon. Or if you just curve it, like such. Then you have your perfect circle. And actually from here you can also then creating areas for your park. You could say, oh, I only want to have animals in this section, so we could go up from here. Go down, and then we're going to that. That's probably easily big enough for some small animals, oviraptors. If it's lagging, it's on you, Jacob. I don't have any problems here. Just try refreshing your browser. But yeah, an area like this is easily big enough for some oviraptors or some Lystrosaurus or something like that. Oops. And then you could turn this area into guest space. So get rid of this. And let's give them this brown texture. And then let's do 1, 2, 3, and 4. And same here. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then we'll grab the round one. Yep. Yep. And then let's create a nice little water feature. Where's that Jurassic Park sign?
This way.
Put it in the middle. Yep, that's fine. Let's put in...
Cool. Sophia is just going to take a step into nothingness, and then she's taking a step.
A mural between the two.
Giant spiders.
And we'll put down some seating. Like such. I'm just going to do this whole enclosure actually.
Yeah.
Let's make it
So how much
quite sandy.
Get out of some wall.
Nice.
Fair enough.
Put in some water.
Okay. So it's gonna be
Naturally,
kind of awkward because I'm not large.
naturally. Let's put in some rocks.
I can't jump the gap.
Yep.
I cannot.
Let's grab some plants.
Jump
Let's
distance is
go
not hard
some
enough to do that.
palms.
I have a jump distance of 9.
Yep. Let's grab some of these. Sink it down.
Fair enough.
Sink it down. Sink it and sink it. Yep.
And then considering most things around him is dead anyway, I might as well use this while I have the chance.
Let's grab
I am going to use my action to use a 30-foot cone of shark events.
some of these as well. Key thing about vegetation is to use layers. Always make sure you have a variety of heights when you're putting vegetation in. It helps it make, just stops it looking fake, essentially.
It is very easy to avoid him. He's in the trench.
Let's put in some
But there's also careful.
fibrous plants here and here.
I am a bit over somewhat 10 feet now.
Let's make this like a little dune.
That would be.
And on top of this little dune, we're going to put some...
This is like the only thing I didn't reprogram in. You're kidding me.
I'm going to make it like a little fort. Have that one low. And have that one
86. Okay.
much lower and at a jaunty sort of angle.
So is 86.
Yep. And then this bit over here,
It is that's dexterity 16.
gonna make
Saving throw.
nice and
or they
rough.
take full
Thanks to
damage.
Kyodenic. That was a bit much.
Is a magical factor of a weapon? Yes.
Yep, that's a bit better. And then we're just going to cover it in some
Potentially.
cycads and things. Yeah.
Yeah, dex.
And what would we stick in here?
Yeah,
Something
nice.
of this size. No.
That's cool. No, you and Bios have the same one. No, you and Bios have the same.
Yeah, a Wangosaurus would work well in an enclosure this big. It's they're small enough for it. They've got plenty of area to move around. Don't like how untidy that edge is.
Yeah, this is, I think,
And obviously,
this is why we asked.
you could also delete the fencing here and replace it with, say, let's grab invisible fence
Probably passes.
like that, and then put down some more of these.
Oh. So it takes 29 points of cold damage then.
also wall sections.
Oh wow. Kind of undead are you? Oh, mine is the very rare one. Yeah, that
There you
would be my turn. That is everything I can do.
And we could then put in some trees just to match that. Match the other area. Let's put in some signage, some very pretend educational signage. And then we're going to want some lighting. So let's match it to those trees. So one there, one there, one there.
Sorry, what was this?
The same thing here, one there, one
Sorry,
there,
I tuned up for like half a second.
one there. And then what we're going to do is we're going to
That is literally what it was.
double it up. So we have lights both on the pedestrian side and the dinosaur side.
Nice.
And then let's
If someone was questioning about
alter
the
those
weapons,
colours.
only on hit after the damage of the attack, and
So we'll keep the pedestrian side light. But we're going to make the dinosaur side blue.
I do be playing a few monks.
Yep.
I just heard something in the I just heard someone in the background. All I can imagine it was that person running.
And then we could go and give them like a mock sort of
I think. I wasn't sure if that was a car attached to Michael's teal.
like a pretend. Actually, no. We could grab the, where is it? The pterosaur statue.
Just for full disclosure, I can see the people down here, right?
Just put a few around the water.
I'll just keep that in mind for later.
And there you go. You know, that took me, what, 10 minutes or so? Probably longer than that. I didn't check the time. But, and straight away we have a really nice environment. And then from that we could then let's make the two side ones a bit longer. From that. Fill up these little gaps. There you go. Put in some different color in the side.
His question is Elvira still concentrating or?
There you go. And then from that, you could then continue the rest of the park. I think it's quite easy to build a park by thinking about, like, don't start a park with the entrance. Start a park with an animal. Decide on an animal. Doesn't have to be a big one. Just be like the first animal you see when you enter the park. What's the first animal that you want to display for your park? Build the enclosure, and then from here we can build our entrance. Let's have it. So go to there, and
they can teleport. They have a plus
to
3
there.
to attack. Yes.
Damn that little
They do not.
squirm.
They do not.
If this is the entrance, I want to make it quite show-offy, so I'm gonna grab. Let's have flaming pillars.
They'll pop up there.
And we're going to have these following the angle of the path. Like that. We'll have some generic trees at either end. Have a couple of planters. Whoops. There and there.
Because that was your action.
And then we can have our entrance off of this,
You could move away.
like such. And there we go. We've already got the beginning of the park set. We've got a nice entrance avenue, which gives us the opportunity to take things off to the sides. So you could easily continue the park this way and this way. We've got a nice beginning exhibit. You can easily expand it further that way. You could easily have an exhibit. If you wanted a much bigger exhibits, you could have exhibits here. Sometimes I find it helpful to just draw stuff out. You know, give yourself 2 big paddocks either side of this entrance paddock. And then you can, you know, do whatever you want with the rest of the park. But I think that's a demonstration that I think too many people start here and then they get to here and then they end up not knowing what they want to do with the rest. I've seen so many people on stream, they'll start and they'll get to here and they'll do a nice little area and then they'll stop because they'll run out of ideas. And I honestly think starting here and working your way backwards is a much better way of doing it. And always try and, don't make your enclosures all the same. Try and make them different. I really like this idea. I'm going to have to do this in one of my parks, I think. I quite like this sort of rocky, mountainous sort of enclosure. And the volcano, obviously. I really like that volcano that we came up with earlier. I'm going to show you all something I've been working on, which I haven't shown anybody yet, since I have time. Are we loading? Or have we crashed? No, we are loading. It was just taking its time. Yeah, it was just taking its time to load, but there is probably good reason for that, which you'll see in a sec. So, this is something I have been working on called the maze, with obvious reasons. So these lagoon tiles are the outskirts, and this is all going to be, as you can see, I've already done the path. This is going to be one colossal maze. This is also a bit of an experiment to see just how far I can push the piece count. But you can see I've already done a few elements down here. So there's going to be the occasional enclosure inside these areas. I haven't decided what I'm going to put in the animal enclosures yet. There's also going to be obviously the amenity buildings. There's going to be a few hidden enclosures. So this one you'll only be able to see what's in here from the viewing log there. And that viewing log is reached by... yes, that viewing entrance over there links to this log here. This one here is linked over... Where is that one linked from? Oh, over here. So this one links to this one over here. This one, I don't see it as having any animals in whatsoever. There's just going to be like statues in here. So it's going to be like a faked one. This enclosure, quite like this, to have like a little walkway up to a raised area where they can look out. Probably have a carnivore or two in here. We have a nice little walk through sort of garden-esque area. This is another. This will be another enclosure in here.
I think this one works by hitting Raya.
Same for, I think this one I'm going to just have as forest. And here we have a nice little... So I've done like a waterfall sort of enclosure. Little decoration using the fountain parts. Leading down. So there'll be proper dinosaurs in here. Viewable from this length.
Works.
Obviously we've got another like a zip line over here, just for a bit of fun over this enclosure. It is ambitious, and like I say, it is a test to see how far I can push the engine's piece counts. Here we have like a little castle area with nice sort of gardens that you can walk around and sit in. I thought I'd include some back scenes areas, so we got like a little works outfit there. This river runs all the way through this side of the maze, so each time it crosses, we've got like a bridge. So we've got a fountain one here. This one we got fountains and just some fins. This one are going to turn into like a waterfall. Nothing there. This one you've got like a
just under average.
Little covered bridge area.
Average is 36.
The log crossing the bridge. We've got nice fins again. And then it'll continue over the back. And obviously we've got aviaries in here. We've got like a little hidden lagoon. I'm thinking probably Archelon in there. This exhibit, I'm thinking probably Metricanthosaurus, something like that. Hello, Joshua. We've got some fountains again, covering up that horrible concrete section of the aviary. And then here probably have something herbivore-ish in there. Be a bigger ones here and here, and obviously in the dead center of the maze we'll have probably I'm thinking like T-Rex or Spinosaurus or Indominus Rex, something like that, something big for people to go and find. But yeah, it is obviously very ambitious and takes a very long time to do just this. I mean, how long have I been going on this save file? Let's see. So it's 5 hours so far, and that was to create the surrounding, the lagoons and to do the pattern of the paving, and then obviously to start filling it in. It's 5 hours so far, and I seriously doubt that I'm going to get to finish it, because I think the piece count problem is going to occur first.
I'm sorry.
But I'll be interested to see just how much I can make before the piece count becomes a problem. It'd be fun if it was just one Sinosauropteryx in the middle of the maze. Oh, that's a bit cruel. Just, one lone Sinosauropteryx. You're going to do a POV walkthrough when you're done or when you reach critical mass. Yeah, I probably will. Like, if I can get to finish this or finish it well, like if it's like mostly complete and there's only a small area that it's not, I will probably do a POV walk around and do like see if we can actually reach like the center of the maze. Basically, I'm kind of going lengthwise along it, so I want to do along the river first, and then do each of these areas. And then obviously they'll need dinosaurs and statues and decorations and everything else. What else can I do for the last 10 minutes? Let's go back to the species viewer, actually. So I didn't get the chance to show it off when we were looking at the timeline park the other day. But I wanted to show off the Shonisaurus colors on the Stegosaurus and the T-Rex and the Brachiosaurus mod for people. It's probably going to do a mod spotlight on it, but so let's start with Stego, because that's the one I think needs the most work done on it. So let's just remove the pattern first of all. The Shonisaurus skin colors just are so much nicer on the Stego, I think. Like, look how rich that green is on the Stego there. Ooh, and that's a really nice combo as well. Like the blue, green, the black. Hello, Jurassic Mation. The purple, obviously, that looks fantastic. And then on top of that, you have obviously the patterns. So Rana is what, a sort of a speckled orange with those yellow plates. That looks really cool, actually. I quite like the plate color. I'm not so sure on the skin textures. Definitely. Then we have Calcarana, so that's like the blacks, black and whites.
Oh.
See if I can find a pattern. That works quite well on the Calcarana pattern, actually, for that. Lithobates. So that's the green Shonisaurus texture.
It's a fun spell.
I'd say lithobates probably. I mean, I don't really like lithobates on the Shonisaurus, but probably would work. That works quite well. Works quite well on the black. Pulcrana, which was I think it's just white stripes on the plates, so it doesn't really do much. Papurana is that really vibrant yellow and blue one, which I think really looks good on the Stego. I mean, that's very bright. And then you have Pelophylax, which is that wonderful blue. I think that's probably my favorite. The yellow, the blue on the black. I think that looks really good. Have your game ever crashed before from the mods? Yeah, plenty of times. You know, if you're a seasoned modder like I am, I practically mod every single game. Games crashing because of mods is just something you deal with. Usually the games only crash with mods because either you've installed the mod wrong or the mod is not compatible. Most of the time, games will run fine with mods. Lux on the plates would have been good. It's a shame that that not more people make Lux skins. Let's have a look at the T-Rex. So again, in terms of color, doesn't change much about them. But then we have those wonderful patterns. So they're all based on the back and the head. So you have the, what's this, light blue and sort of cream.
The horde. What can they do?
Then have the black stripes, and that looks really cool, actually. The black stripes, the white on the crests, looks really good on the green. That green from the lithobates, which also looks quite good on the green. Pulcrana, which is that weird reddish, which doesn't really stand out too much. But it kind of works. It kind of works. Obviously, that really vibrant Nerf gun sort of color palette, I think, is probably the one that just doesn't fit any of the T-Rex skins because of the blue on it. And then obviously the that really distinctive Arctic sort of white pattern. I think it's the Brachiosaurus where it really comes out the best, though. So obviously, again, with our patterns, you get some much more distinct color variations. Especially that. I mean, that's really distinct. And then you have the Rana pattern, or colors onto the pattern there. That strange green of the lithobates. See, I really like that. The lighter pattern. Oh, that works quite well.
Yeah, I'd actually do
The
so
Nerf
if
gun pattern, which again I think is difficult to make work. I mean, I think the Nerf gun pattern is difficult to make work on the actual Shonisaurus as well. So, and then obviously you have the glorious blue and yellow. And yeah, people might say, well, it's a bit gaudy, it's too colourful, but then I would say, like the standard Brachiosaurus, I would say that the skins and the patterns that a normal Brachiosaurus has are just really boring and bland. It's why I don't use Brachiosaurus a lot. So being able to make it look really visually distinctive like this, I think adds a lot to wanting to use the dinosaur. I think those were the only three I put it on. I know that he's allowed it to go on. I don't think I put it on the Alberto. No, I left the Alberto the way it was. I know that that particular mod, there's a few different dinosaurs you can stick it on. At some point, I do need to do a mod spotlight video on some of these. I haven't actually looked at this guy since installing him. If I'm honest, I think I'm going to be getting rid of this guy. Yeah, I don't think I'll be keeping this one. Titanolophosaurus, yes, but I think he's not done a particularly good job with the model or the skin colors. Obviously, Tenontosaurus always looks good, thanks to LA Studios. Obviously we have Shastasaurus has come back to the game, and there's a few special skin colors for it now. If you want to have something big and bulky to go with our Shoni. I still need to use the Shatungosaurus somewhere. Like, it'll make for a really good distinctive animal. And the Prognathodon, another species of mosasaur. One thing I would say about this mod, the sort of skin colors are not entirely fantastic. They're all just a variation of black and grey.
He is exactly one side leather.
But, you know, being able to really change the colour of those spots along the side definitely does help.
Yeah, I find this at the hard way.
I think that's all the modded species I have. I don't think I have that many. Oh, then, you know, I've still got Megalania, which again is a really, really nicely done mod, where the pattern just changes the colour of the tail, essentially. We really do need to use these guys in a park. I'm not entirely sure how you pronounce it. They've said it's Lajas but I don't think that's correct. I think the J is supposed to be silent. I need to figure out how to pronounce that one. And again, the color just changes the color of the side stripe, which is such an easy way of doing it. Like, I don't understand why Frontier themselves didn't go for this sort of style, which the color matches the color, the pattern will change to Lahaz Venator. Yeah. Well, this is a really nice looking one. Again, some nice colors and patterns. I really like this. The venomous cocktail skin, they've called it. I think that looks really cool. The white, well, these two black ones, I don't know what they're supposed to be based on, but the venomous cocktail one, absolutely adore that. The Kelmyosaurus comes with a lot of variation in terms of skin color and patterns. think it's a decent enough model. I think they've done a decent enough job on that. So I think I'll be keeping that one. Oh, the Eustriptus spondylus is back. I think he's... Oh yeah, they've greatly changed how many colors and options you have for the patterns now. So you've got a lot of variation. I do like Eustriptus spondylus. Eocaria, another one I really like. I think this one is another LA Studios, if I'm not mistaken. That looks really cool. Neon blue there. Reminds me of how the Acrocanthosaurus used to look in Jurassic Park Operation Genesis. I think that is... Oh, the Australotitan, obviously. Seems like the pattern colours are broken on Australotitan. Oh no, it's just on the head where the colours apply. And we've got some alternative designs. And this little hadrosaurid from Africa, I think it is. Which is alright. Yeah, I'll need to do a mod spotlight on all the new species that modders have introduced to the game. But yeah. Oh, well, we are at 11 o'clock. So I am going to leave it there. This week has been very busy in terms of content from all of us at Tricor Gaming. We haven't quite gotten to 2,000 subs by the end of September, but we're close enough to 2,000. Hopefully we'll be at 2,000 by the end of October, I think. Easily enough. The Doctor Who hybrids are also back as mod species. Are they? I wasn't aware that that mod had been updated yet. I'll have to check that one out. But thank you everyone who did tune in to join me with, you know, looking at how to make good enclosures and giving center points, and hopefully I've given you some ideas of which you can go away and put in your own parks. Next week there'll be I think I wanted to do a sort of a what Jurassic World 3 would need to do video. So that'll be next week. And then the week after next, there'll be one video, but I think it'll probably be War Thunder. Me and Dane will be away for that second week of October, so we won't be here. So I'm trying to bug Dane to do a Paleo Pines stream next week at some point. So do tune in for that. But until then, enjoy the rest of your days. Stay safe, and good night.